First of all, guys, just thank you so much. My previous video, Can You Beat Hades 2 with a Cat, just did super well. All the engagement, all the comments, all the likes, all the views, guys, thank you so much. I really, really appreciate that. You have no idea how much it means to me that you all are enjoying it so much. Especially any new subscribers from that video, thank you. You're helping a fledgling YouTube channel grow a little bit, and it truly means the world to me and to Daisy. Thank you. After I saw that video had done pretty well, i.e. over 1,000 views, I thought to myself, well, how am I going to top this? And honestly, I don't know if I can. So if anybody in the comments has any ideas on some really good and difficult and entertaining challenges, please let me know. I would love to hear your ideas. I did think of this challenge though, and truthfully, it's nowhere near as difficult as the Tula challenge. So the thumbnail of this video would suggest that we're trying to beat Hades 2 without attacking. And well, if you saw my last video, you would say that you literally did that with Tula. And yes, dear viewer, you are correct. That being said, Tula is way too powerful, and it's basically cheating to use her. So, and the question we're instead trying to answer is, how quickly can we beat Hades 2 without attacking? The rules of this one are pretty simple. I just can't use my attack, I can't use my special, and I can't use my cast to damage any enemies. That leaves us with any dash boons from gods, any sprint boons, and any boons to activate when we're like low health or low mana or something. And the boon that I'm going to choose is Hephaestus' sprint boon. But before we get into that, I do want to explain something. What you guys see in the background gameplay is me kind of routing the run a little bit. So the way Hades works is entirely RNG based, especially the rewards that you get from any rooms. And you can manipulate that RNG a little bit, especially for the starting boon that you get. So first off, there are two ways to end a Hades run. The first way is to die, or complete the game. The other way is to give up. If you die, it completely resets the boon that you get in your first room when you start a new run. Whereas if you give up, it's going to be the exact same choice of boons every single time that you give up without dying. So what I just did there was I got the Hephaestus boon first, which is exactly what I wanted, and then I just re-offered it a few times to see what I could get. Now, knowing which boons are available, I can just choose the sprint boon immediately and get started with the run. And honestly, this was a really fun run. I learned a great deal about some of the boons that I'd never tried before within this run. And I promise you guys are going to be absolutely shocked by the results of this run. So the first boon that we choose is Smithy Sprint. We rarefied as well for some extra damage, and what this boon does is whenever we sprint, we charge up a little explosion that'll go off, dealing 300 damage in this case to any enemies that are in front of us, and it consumes 10 magic. Now, as you can see in the background gameplay for this part of the run, 300 damage is quite a lot of damage. We are one-shotting almost everything. So that's really nice. That is really nice. Again, if you saw my last video, which I recommend looking at, this is so much better. Also, for those of you who are new to the channel, I would recommend watching the previous Hades 2 video as well as my Hades 1 video a couple weeks back. The rest of them are pretty good too, but I think those are my two best, quality-wise. Regardless, Hephaestus isn't the only god that we want to focus on during this run, as I also want a boon from Aphrodite. And that one doesn't have anything to do with dealing damage, but healing. One of her boons allows you to heal up to max health, as long as you're within the threshold of health every time you exit a room. So I love that boon, super helpful. So hopefully we can get that. We are also going to need a way to restore our magic, and any magic restoring boon from a god will work. So we're not going to be too picky about that, because as of right now we only have 12 uses of our sprint attack. And if we can't finish the encounter within 12 uses of it, we have to reset the entire run. we do get an Arachne room. And she's lovely, by the way. I'm so glad that they went with the cute little spider aspect instead of a terrifying giant spider boss that they could have done. I love her. She's so sweet. And we grab the armor that allows us to restore some mana while we have the armor. And we run into our first mini boss too. Perfect timing, because I don't know if we would have had enough mana without Arachne's armor. Regardless, we are shredding her. That was so quick, so efficient. Wow. We also get the single best boon that we possibly could have gotten, that being Furnace Blast. And what that does is, if you guys remember from Hades 1, if you ever played that game, Ares had some boons that added the Doom effect to enemies. It's the same thing as that. After we attack an enemy with our sprint, they'll have a little timer on them. Once that timer goes off, they will take a set amount of damage. In this case, 500 damage. So 10 magic will do a total of 800 damage to our enemies, which is... that's a lot of damage. So yeah, that's awesome. We also get one of the best boons from Hermes right here, giving us a 20% chance to dodge any attack that's thrown at us. So we are having some amazing luck so far. And we also get an Aphrodite boon here, which is great. That means we're going to get more Aphrodite. So I just want to go into a little bit more detail about the Hephaestus boons that we have. So the sprint one, that uses a blast effect, which is the damage that we get from the initial sprint. And then the vent effect is what comes after that. And that takes 6 seconds to activate. Though, if we continuously attack an enemy with our sprint, our blast effect, it'll reset that timer every single time. So if we want to get that 800 damage, we have to wait that 6 seconds after attacking. And then from Aphrodite, we get the magic restoring boon, which was perfect timing because we are running into our first boss. I also just grab a Palm of Power from Charon over here to increase our sprint damage by 100, which is just crazy. 900 damage from one attack this early in the game. Wow. I also want to go over a brief overview of the Aphrodite boon that we just got. So essentially, hi Daisy, there will always be one foe in every encounter that's weak, and that effect just allows them to do 10% less damage to us. But also, when we're standing near them, we restore our magic. So one foe is always going to be weak, they deal 10% less damage, and we restore magic near them. And you can see that weaken effect on the little witch right there. She has pink around her. Yeah. Overall, it's pretty good, especially for bosses, because the boss is usually going to be the one that's weak, making sure that they deal less damage to us. And since we'll be attacking them quite frequently, we're always going to be restoring that near them. Magic, sorry. I'm always going to get that wrong because it's called mana in like every other game, but that's fine. I also got hurt by her little curse bubble turning us into a cute little sheep, and I suck at dodging this so much. I don't know what it is about it, I just can't do it, but that's fine. As you guys can see, we are taking her down very quickly, very efficiently, and we're not really having any problems so far. But that won't stay like that forever. Later on in the run, I do make 2 very big challenges that cost us a lot of time and effort because I wasn't thinking things through. But it's fine. Everything's fine. And if you guys are hearing random noises in the background, that is my cat Daisy just absolutely freaking out and sprinting everywhere and jumping on things. It's very funny. Also, while we are fighting Hecate right here, I do want to let you guys know about some of the future projects I have coming out. Definitely a lot more Hades 2 content because I freaking love this game. It's amazing. And the main thing that's coming out soon is going to be a 5-part series where I try out all 5 weapons that are currently in the game, and I beat the surface with them, focusing on each separate god. So there are 8 gods right now and 5 weapons, which means I'll be doing a total of 40 runs, just to test out every single weapon and god combination that's currently in the game and see what synergizes, what's really good, what's bad, what's meh, you know, and get back to you. And I'll be making each video focus on a single weapon and then going over every god with that weapon. You guys get the idea. But that'll be coming out pretty soon here on top of challenge runs. So it will be a little bit of both. And I might cover some Hades 2 news as well, just because it's really interesting stuff. There's a lot going on with this game. And down here we get an Aphrodite plus Hephaestus room. And from the Hephaestus one, we take the boon that lets us be impervious to attacks for the first 8 seconds of any encounter, which is super nice. Aphrodite, of course, gets upset at us and starts attacking us, but it's fine. We can deal with that. Though when her attacks do hit us, it does about 13 damage and it stuns us for half a second, but it's okay. We'll be fine. And I did, of course, take the staff in with me to this game so I can heal if I need to, though I don't use it nearly as much in this run as I did in the Tula run. We do eventually finish off this run, or this room, sorry. And, well, we picked the Sweet Surrender boon, which is actually pretty great because every time a foe is weak, again, they deal 10% less damage to us, but now that we have this boon, they'll take 10% more damage from us. Super nice. I also buy the Selene boon from Charon, hoping to get some sort of healing boon, but we end up taking the one that makes enemies slow for a couple seconds, because why not? Oh, also, I do want to put out another thank you to some of the commenters who commented on the previous video. I learned a lot from you guys. There's one guy who did the math for how many times Tula attacked. That's actually the pinned comment right now. A bunch of people gave me the correct pronunciation for Charybdis, which, thank you so much. Now I don't look like an idiot when I say that, so thank you. Charybdis does sound a lot less intimidating than Charybdis. And there's also somebody who gave me some sweet Hades lore about Hades himself, so that was super cool. And then all the positive and supportive comments, guys, thank you so much. I really don't deserve that, but you're so sweet. I really, really appreciate everything. Anyway, back to the run. Also, the Hephaestus hammer noise is so satisfying. Hang on, I gotta make some.
Till it's cool, just cool, into the mouth. Nice.
So we get another boon from Hermes, and it's the best possible boon we could have gotten, because what this does is whenever we're sprinting, which it increases our sprint speed by 15%, but whenever we're sprinting, we get 3 instances of damage that we just don't take. Again, we get a barrier that allows us to dodge 3 entire instances of damage for free every time we sprint in an encounter, which is just crazy. Again, the luck that we are getting in this run is just awesome. We're getting the best boots. And next up, we just take some extra health. We don't need it, but it's always nice. I will never complain about extra health, that's for sure. Also, it's so satisfying to hit a big group of enemies with this sprint because it just absolutely annihilates them. I mean, look at that. They pop. It's great. So we get our extra health and we visit Charon to find a mystery boon, and from this we get Zeus. And the boon that we decide to take is pretty helpful, I guess. Whenever we have less than 10 magic, we'll strike all of the enemies on screen with lightning every once in a while. So that's something. I'll take it. Plus, the others literally wouldn't have done anything for us, so didn't really have much of a choice. And with that, it is time for the sirens. And again, if you remember the last video with Tula, this fight took me 40 minutes, so I am certainly looking forward to some catharsis. That being said, I still love their music so much, so I really don't mind an extended boss fight from them. An entire album from Scylla and the Sirens would definitely be a welcome addition to this world, I think at least. But in this run, I don't think we'll have enough time to hear an entire album, much less a single song. Because we're barely into the fight and they're already more than halfway dead. This build is just... it's too viable. It has no right to be this viable. Suppose it's time for phase 2 then. And if you look at our health, we've barely taken any damage whatsoever. This is great. We still have our barrier too, so we can absorb a couple instances of damage. I do use Selene's Hex right here just to get some free damage off, because why not? And yeah, every attack just absolutely chunks this boss. Enjoy the last 30 seconds of this fight without my constant chattering. Yeah, that entire fight only took 1 minute and 20 seconds. So, significantly better than the Tula run. And over here, I decided to switch out my keepsake to something that will actually do something, and I just grabbed one that gives us some extra money, because why not? And I'm really excited for the next two areas, the Fields of Mourning and Tartarus, because I had such a difficult time in the previous run, so this run is going to be, again, cathartic. And that's the theme of the whole run. Catharsis. Yeah. That's deep. So, yeah, I mean, we still one-shot most of the enemies here. If we don't one-shot them with our sprint attack, the vent will take them out. So, yeah, this build is great. And we get another Hephaestus boon, which is great, so after we clear this little mini encounter thing, we can get some more power. Now, what I'm hoping for is the Hephaestus boon that gives us some armor as long as we prime some magic every encounter. That'd be great. I would take that. If you can't tell, I really love defense and health regeneration. And that's a big thing in any game. I love being able to regen my health and survive, essentially. Unfortunately, we don't get any boons that can help us out in this challenge, and I don't have any way to re-roll this set of boons, so we just take any of them, and it's fine. So we do get access to another Hephaestus boon. All we need to do is defeat this little mini-boss, and yeah, I mean, it is significantly quicker than the Tula run, though I really do miss Tula. She did such a good job on that last run, and I will definitely have to do a surface run with her once that area is complete. And from this Hephaestus boon, we take the one that gives us some extra health based on how much magic we have. Solid. I was hoping for this one too. Also, I would like to point out that in my Tula run, I said that getting the other mini-boss in this area would be an instant reset because we couldn't kill the extra ads that were spawning around the encounter. Some people in the comments did correct me and say that we only need to take out the actual mini-boss for that encounter to complete, so thank you for the info. I appreciate that. I get another Hephaestus boon from Echo, and none of these will help us, so we can just take any of them and move on. And of course we do give the lovely lady a gift, just because she's nice. We love Echo. She's such a sweetheart. And this is the last room before Charon and Cerberus, so I'm just going to go ahead and skip through it and just show you guys which boons I get from it, because you know how it's going to go. So with the pomegranate, I upgrade my sprint attack, giving us plus 26 damage, which isn't much, but it's something. And then after that we get access to a Zeus boon, and, well, this one isn't bad either. It doesn't really help us too much. It just increases the chance that a little lightning effect when we have less than 10 magic will actually strike twice. So, it's something. Look, I just did it right there. Lastly, we get access to 5 Selene boon upgrades, and what I take from those is 10% damage resistance when we don't have our hex charged, as well as a decrease in the amount of magic it takes to charge our hex. So in total, if I remember correctly, it's minus 20 magic to charge our hex and plus 30% damage resist when it's not charged. I grab one more Hephaestus boon from Charon over here, and I just take some armor from him. It'll help. And I also grab a random palm to upgrade one of our abilities. On to Cerberus, who must be furious seeing us again, but he also must be a little bit relieved that Tula isn't here with us, considering how embarrassing it was for him the last time they fought. Cerberus is a chunky boy, and he also has a lot of attacks that activate on top of him, like that red circle that's charging up, so it's a little bit more difficult to get these attacks off, but yeah. I mean, we still just do an absurd amount of damage, so yeah. Again, I really wish this challenge was more difficult for you guys. I hope it's at least entertaining to see how ridiculous this build is. I did one little scouting run where I just went through the first boss to see how effective this would be, and it was pretty good, but I still assumed that as we went further on into this challenge that it would take us significantly longer. I thought this would be at least like an hour and a half, 2-hour run. But I mean, we're almost done and we're only 25 minutes in. So, yes, apologies again. If you have any more challenging and entertaining runs, let me know in the comments and I'll do my best to take care of them. Also, those guys with the little punchies, they're pretty annoying. If you get caught in one of their attacks, it's really hard to break them out of it and you end up taking a lot of damage, so they're not fun to deal with, but we can still basically one-shot them, so not too many problems there. As for Cerberus, well, enjoy this sweet soundtrack and the very satisfying sound of Hephaestus's hammer.
You shades, leave him alone.
Yeah, only 2.5 minutes to soothe our good boy Cerberus. Not bad. And I do take another new keepsake just so it has an effect, and the one that I take is the one from Odysseus, which just gives us 10 seconds after we lose our first life in order to do some extra damage to Kronos. And I took that just because I hadn't tried it before and I wanted to see what it did. I also grabbed the Hydrolite Extended from the Well of Chiron, which means every single time we clear an encounter, we're going to restore 10% of our health for the rest of the run. I also want to make a quick correction on what I just said about the keepsake. It doesn't specifically activate when we're fighting Kronos, it just activates when we lose our first life, which just so happens to be while we're fighting Kronos in this run. Sorry, spoilers. Again though, I was looking forward to this area so I could get my revenge on those pathetic rat men. Not these guys. It's just the dudes with the little red hoods that spawn rats in. If you saw my previous video you would understand, but I hate them so much. I also think it would be pretty cool if those little money bag enemies just gave you a little bit of money after you take them out. I think that'd be a fun little gimmick that they could add, but hey. Speaking of money bags, we find a mini-boss one. And his armor actually has a lot of hit points, I guess. He has some very chunky armor. He's a beefy armor boy. A beefy boy. And it takes a little while to break that armor, but once we do, we can take him out. He's not too difficult. He does have one attack where he spawns a bunch of coins in right under him, and those do damage if you run into them, but I mean, I don't think we even lose our immunity shield that we have during this entire boss fight, so it wasn't really too bad. Again, the only thing I'm really worried about is Kronos at this point. Every other boss is meh. Phase 2 of Kronos will always be difficult. But we can take out money bags over here and we can get an upgraded Zeus spoon from it. And this was my first mistake of the run. I took the Zeus spoon that gives us some mana regeneration, magic regeneration, at the cost of 60% of our magic. And at first glance, you may see that and be like, well, I mean, that sounds pretty good. You regenerate magic for literally nothing except for, you know, some of your max magic. And normally that would be good, but it just slows down the amount of attacks that we can do. But we run into Cerberus, and I guess he's still mad about the Tula thing, so he doesn't let us pet him. And we talk to Hades over here, and he gives us one of his boons, and we just take the one that lets us go dark for, I think, 10 seconds after we take an attack, just because I'd never really tried that one out, and I wanted to see what it would do. But yeah, with this Zeus boon, we now only have 62 mana, which means we can only do 6 attacks before we have to wait for it to recharge. And, I mean, it's not the worst thing in the world, but it really extended the amount of time the rest of this run took. And here are those awful rat guys, and I can one-shot them now, which makes me so happy. And my revenge is finally nearly complete. though I may do a couple more runs after this, just to take them out a little bit more, you know?
No traitor to the
They wasted so much of my time. But we're very nearly to Kronos, and
Let's begin.
this area wasn't really a problem. Again, I will say this time and time again, this build has no right to be as effective as it is. We're just blowing through everything. I guess sprinting, plus the barrier, plus the Hermes boon that allows us to dodge damage 20% of the time, makes it so that enemies just have a really tough time hitting us. So that may be part of the reason. It's also just because we do an absurd amount of damage with every single sprint attack.
Gods.
And right there, I did choose the Aphrodite boon that gives us a heartthrob whenever we spend 30 magic. So every 3 sprint attacks that we do, we'll get a little pink heart that follows us around, and it does 120 damage to the first enemy it hits. We also get to grab a Hephaestus boon, and what we take from this is the one that we hadn't ever gotten before, so we can fulfill the prophecy, but
The Smith God's power.
it doesn't do anything for us during this run. One more room to go, then Charon, and then Kronos. Almost there. I'll just skip through this room, to be honest. And it is with Charon up here that I make my second and third big mistakes of the run.
Through.
The first one is that I buy this Hermes boon, but it doesn't give me anything I can use, so I basically just wasted 500 points, when I could have gotten the Pomegranates of Power and upgraded the power of some of my attacks. The more main mistake, the third big mistake, is buying this Hephaestus boon and taking the Trusty Shield boon, which I normally love. And what it does is it gives us 10 armor every time we enter an encounter at the cost of 30 magic. So now we only have access to 3 sprint attacks before we have to let it regenerate, which isn't a lot. That was the annoying part, is just only having 3 attacks before we have to wait for it to recharge. But, I mean, I definitely did that on purpose to make this challenge more difficult for you guys. Yeah, I definitely didn't just overlook that aspect of it, but that was on purpose. Don't worry about it, huh? But just like every other boss, this build really chunks him down, especially with Kronos, because we do have to dodge a lot of his attacks. His attacks do an absurd amount of damage to us as well, so, you know, our whole method of taking him down is to run into him with our Hephaestus attack, run away and dodge, and let the vent effect hit him while we're dodging. So, almost every attack is going to do around 1,000 damage to him, which is absurd. And some of y'all might have predicted how good this build was going to be from the get-go. I haven't watched any Hades 2 content whatsoever. Normally when I get a new game, I'll dive headfirst into YouTube and research everything, find out the best meta builds, but with Hades 2 I didn't. I've never seen a single video or anything regarding Hades 2. So there may be some videos out there that have already gone over the effectiveness of this boon, and some of you watching may just see this and be like, yeah, duh, of course that's good. But I had no idea, personally. Speaking of info on YouTube, so on the day of recording the audio, I woke up and I looked at my YouTube and I saw that the entirety, well, maybe not the entirety, but parts of Destiny 2 The Final Shape have been completely leaked on PlayStation. They, like, accidentally let people play the game early. So I'm trying my hardest to stay off the internet and avoid any spoilers. Because I'm on Xbox, so I couldn't play that. I mean, what a blunder. Imagine being the person that let that happen. That'd be rough. Regardless, though, next week on Tuesday, when the Final Shape comes out, I am going to be playing a lot of Destiny. I may release a video or two on that, but again, most of the content on this channel, since you guys like Hades 2 so much, is going to be Hades 2. And I have a lot of footage recorded for Hades 2 already, just need to edit it, so. Anyway, we're on to phase 2, and we are significantly lacking in health, but that's okay. We're blowing through them pretty quickly. I'm kind of hoping that we can do a no-death run here, but we don't. Maybe one day, though. I assume I'll get that during one of my challenges in the future. And if you guys see me randomly spamming my Hex for no reason every now and then, again, that's just because it gives us 30% damage resistance whenever it's not charged. Like right there. But spamming it ended up costing me my first life. And with the engraved pin keepsake from Odysseus, we have about 10 seconds to do damage before we perish. And again, I just wanted to see how that worked. And it worked exactly how I thought it would, but just fun to try it. And I'm sure all of you who are still watching can guess how this fight ends, but I'll leave you to the amazing soundtrack and the fun spectacle of this fight. And I'll be back once this fight's over.
I think
You waste your precious time. Time cannot be stopped.
8 minutes and 15 seconds, significantly longer than any of the previous boss fights in this run, but significantly shorter than almost every boss fight in the Tula run. I'll take it. And 187,000 damage from our sprint, which is, again, absurd, especially for the short amount of time that it took us to clear this run, and the ease of which we cleared it. And I'm glad we did this run.
so much for the ravages.
It was indeed cathartic, though I do want a more difficult run in the future. If you guys enjoy the content and would like to support the channel by subscribing, that would be amazing, but if not, that's totally fine. Your viewership is quite enough for me. Thanks for watching.